Welcome to Disruptive Capitalists, the show where purpose-driven entrepreneurs and bold investors share how they're reshaping the world by investing time and money in a way that improves lives and creates wealth. So let's get to it. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us again today for another great episode of the Disruptive Capitalist podcast. My guest today is the David Morgan, who runs the Morgan Report. So what happens when your money becomes a means for control? We've seen it. We're seeing it. In this age of AI, more and more information is coming out than ever before about how people use our money. But David has spent over 4 decades warning that the greatest risk to our wealth and our freedom is the failing financial system. He's the author of the Silver Manifesto, publisher of the Morgan Report, and now creator of the upcoming documentary Silver Sunrise. With insight grounded in monetary history, hard-won market experience, David's here to unpack money, markets, mining, and what it truly means to opt out of the matrix. Green pill, blue pill, red pill. David, thank you for joining us.
Sam, it's great to be with you. And just a real quick correction, the film Silver Sunrise is now accomplished, released on the 22nd of October last year, and it's for free at silversunrise.tv.
You're right. And you told me that right before we got on, and I just blew it. Thank you, David. So tell us, most people believe that the markets are less, look what the Feds did to the markets over the past 3 years. It's been pretty remarkable. What got you into this in the first place 4 decades ago when you started and decided, I should have raised a warning?
Well, I think what it was, I say the same story every time, and I was 11 years old when the coinage changed. So I noticed those, 90% silver coins going to Cupro nickel coins after Kennedy was assassinated, and then what I call the Johnson slug. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, these cannot have the equal value, but none of the adults seemed to pay attention. So that was kind of the spark in the back of my mind. I didn't go the next day like I'm going to talk about this or make my living doing it or any of that. But I was interested in money, started trading stocks at age 16 and wanted to go to the financial field. My dad was against it, went in and started an aircraft career, which was quite interesting in and of itself. But I moonlighted in the financial field the whole time, left the aircraft industry, went full-time into financial planning for a while, saw that was sort of a rigged game. I didn't like the morality surrounding these big names of big brokers that, you call your client and try to sell them a stock that the company wants to unload because they want to unload at a profit or lighten their position. I just thought that was unethical. So basically kind of went underground, you might say, sub rosa, as my compadre used to call it, and consulted, didn't do a whole lot, traded for a living for a while. And then when my first child was, when my wife was pregnant, I had this vision, not like a massive vision, I maybe called a thought, but I had this thought that my daughter, I have 2 girls, my firstborn said, Dad, if you knew so much, why didn't you do something about it? And that's when I decided to, to start a website. I started a website innocently. I started the website as a research foundation, pre browser. I was on the web when it was a C caret prompt. And if you don't know what to type in, you were watching a C prompt all day. You didn't know what to do, where to go. And then
DIR, directory, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, the whole thing.
So my neighbor was real smart in the gaming industry. He was hired and brought up here to Spokane because of his high level, I won't say IQ, but IQ in the gaming world. And he came over and said, hey, there's a browser called Netscape, and I got the URL for you. And so I started that research page. And then 4, 5, 6 months down the road, a guy called me and said, what do you do? Always wanted to be a financial newsletter writer. I said, I'm a financial newsletter writer. And he says, I'm in. What's it cost? Give him a price. And he said, okay. And I'm levitating. I'm so high. I'm like, wow, this is my passion. It's what I want to do. Oh, God, it's happening. Oh, my goodness. And then I did the what they call the one-handed clap. Sam, if you don't remember, the one-handed clap was, wait a minute, what did I just do? Are you kidding me? I just told one guy I'd write about the overall markets, particularly on silver, for 1 year for $60. That does not sound like early retirement.
He was like $60. We're in.
I was locked in, man, because I'm a man of my word. And so it grew from there, but it wasn't an easy, straight up. I forget the exact expression. You can help me out, but I was an instant success after 10 years. So.
Yeah. Instant success after 10 years. That's how it goes. Everyone always says, oh, they're instantly successful. Yeah, you didn't see the 10 years worth of work it took them to get there. But that's amazing. So you've been doing this for a long time. How have you seen a shift, or have you seen a shift in the sentiment towards folks like you who are raising the banner saying, hey, this is rigged, there's this problem, and here's what it is? It seems
Absolutely.
to me that,
Yeah. I mean, you can always say, well, who's the leader and whatever. I'll be so bold to say I am one of the leaders in this go around. Mm-hmm. But when I was introduced into free money, honest money, sound money movement, all that took place really like when James Blanchard III, who is long deceased, but started the Gold Conference in New Orleans, one of the most famous, longest running gold conferences, went to Washington, D.C. right after Nixon closed the gold window and said, we're going to pay a heavy price for this. We have broke our contract with the world. And so I was following people like that, which was kind of fringe because in those days there was no social media or internet or anything. It was snail mail. All the financial newsletter writers that I followed and honored these men that had intellectual insights into how the markets really worked, you'd have to get it in the mail, open up the letter and all that. So has it changed? Absolutely. Not only do we have a platform that's accessible to everyone, that there's more and more people that are overused, but waking up to the reality of not only how the governments work, how the financial markets work, how manipulated we are. There is such a thing as mind control. There is a echo chamber produced by the social media companies, keep you in an echo chamber, that keep feeding you the same ideology that you believe in. So it just divides us more and more because very few people take a breath and look at both sides like I've always strived to do and see the big picture. And the big picture is we're not them. As the late, great George Carlin said, it's a big club and you're not in it.
Yeah, it is a big club. So what would you say is, what do you think's on the horizon? So there is a lot more attention. People are openly saying this stuff is rigged and we're starting to see why or how it's rigged. But I mean, before 5 years ago, it's just like, oh no, you're a kook. You're a kook. Yep. And all of a sudden now it's like, well, maybe you're not a kook. Maybe you're onto something. But it's like we're getting a lot more information. What do you think's on the horizon? What do you think's going to happen in the next 5 years?
Yeah, great question. I love to answer it. Of course, this is conjecture, but it's a studied perspective. I mean, I've been at this, as you said, a long time. Well, basically, my belief, my worldview is that the money powers, as I call them, they have no nationality. They have no adherence to, a patriotic stance in the principles of Russia or the U.S. or Canada or Europe or whatever. They are internationalists that their God is money and mostly control. And the money masters control most of the political class because most of the political class is bought and paid for. And that's not just true in the U.S., it's true almost everywhere. So if money is power and it has the power of control, what do we see in the next 5 years? Well, it's pretty clear. They want more control than they've ever had before. So they're working toward resetting the system with what we have now, where we have some anonymity with cash. And we do have some financial anonymity, not much, but some. Supposedly, to check your bank account, you still need to get a warrant. Whether that's true, that's another argument. But they're pushing toward a reset where we have programmable money. And programmable money means that you can only spend so much on a certain item. For example, meat, how much you can buy in a month, or how far you can travel, or what your carbon footprint is, or perhaps your social media score is kind of low because you said something that's not politically correct. And all these things factor into the programmable money. So if you take me back a decade or more, let's go back 2 decades. I mean, my idea of freedom kind of revolved around financial freedom. If you had enough financial wherewithal, you could quit your job, tell your boss goodbye, start a foundation, start a speaking circuit, make a website, write books, make movies, whatever it was, whatever your passion was. If you had enough juice, enough fun tickets, as I call them, Federal Reserve notes or the equivalent in another country, you have the freedom to really do things, or at least use it as a tool. And you can loaf on your butt. I mean, that's your prerogative. Then go ahead. I'm not going to tell you what to do with your life. The point being is that you could be a billionaire in the next system and live like a pauper because you're so politically incorrect. Your social credit score is so low that you get to eat meat once a month, as an example. So that's what I see. I don't like it. Doesn't mean it will happen. What it does mean is that's what they're moving toward. That's pretty evident, especially the speech I gave in New Orleans 2 years ago about the new monetary system. And it really was, I hate to use the word dumbed down, but let's say a more succinct and less wordy version of what the BIS, the Bankers Bank, the Bank of International Settlement, has on their website. So anyone can read it and study it. And I, again, just put it into the context that I think everyone could understand it, exactly what they plan to do with the new system.
Well, I hear programmable money, and I think, I was in the military for 20 years or 17 years, early retirement. We live with programmable money. That was how we lived. Buckets of cash. There's colors of money. There's buckets of money. It's basically programmable funds. Government already operates on that to a certain extent, except they like to move the buckets around when they need extra money. The civilian side already does that a little bit. So in the private equity world, if they're going to invest in your company, the money's got to be used for this, this, and this, and it's going to be tranched, and we're going to watch it, and so forth. So what you're saying is that you believe that system is going to come all the way down to the human level, the regular person?
I do.
And what makes you believe that?
Well, because the way that I've understood banking for a very long time, and when China came into the fore, that's the beta test. So I think most of our viewers would know what that means. It's sort of like a trial and error methodology before you go full bore with it. So the Chinese structure is based on a social credit rating. So as I said, you could be rich but not be able to fly first class because you said something on a social media site that was not politically correct to the government, and your status gets degraded instantly. And whether you can win it back or not, I'm not clear. From my understanding, you cannot. So that is basically a cashless society run on what's the right population. I've heard numbers all over the place, but purportedly 1.4 billion. There's about 500 million or half a billion that have no cash. All the big cities, it's a cashless system. You can walk into a convenience store with your phone, no occupant in the convenience store. Your face recognizes, the door opens because it knows who you are. You walk in, you get a bottle of Coke and a bag of chips, or the equivalent in China. You put it on the counter and you pay for it with Tencent or WeChat, and you walk out the door with your product. Even if you forget your phone, in most instances, you can use a handprint and it'll scan that, say your phone was out of power or something, and still pay for it and get out. So it is the brave new world that has been written about so often, talked about occasionally, more often now, about a cashless society run by an artificial intelligence where everything you buy is tracked, everything that you do is traced, and everything that you almost what you think, to the point of Minority Report, is in the system, and there is no breaking free. So that is in fact working quite well with the end as required, meaning complete control over the population. And now that it's beta tested in that large population, it's just a question of time until it's implemented worldwide. That's what I think.
So I would posit that there's a capitalistic reason why that is occurring. If anyone were to say, no, that's not happening. So I know on the AI side, even working with a company who's predicting analytics. That's their whole thing. So the way they predict analytics is by tracking what you spend money on, what time of day you spend that money on that stuff, how often you do that, and then they predict how many donuts they need to produce, or how many of every single thing. So they're at every single time of the day predicting how many they're going to sell this, how much they're going to sell on that, depending on if it's St. Patty's Day or Christmas or New York, on the third of the month. For some reason, so many people come every time the third of the month, whatever it is, just predicting the future. And to be able to predict the future, you have to have a very detailed understanding of human habits and tracking. And so that makes absolute sense. And, I can see why, in my mind, I can see why consumers would want this, because they forgot their phone. They don't want to use cash. Handprint sounds good. China's already way ahead of us in a lot of that technology and doing a lot of that stuff. It's very interesting. So people may say, oh, you're a kook, but then at the same time, and not to be rude, but it's like, folks, it's actually kind of happening. I mean, this is happening, right? This is happening.
Yeah, no, that's taking place. I mean, a lot of people look at the new system as, well, it's communism or it's whatever. Really, I'll just say from the year 2000, which is a good round number when China really took off, it really wasn't a communist state anymore. It was kind of a blend between free market capitalism and an authoritarian government. And, in a way, I mean, if you look at a monarchy and if you got a, principled king, you can cut through a lot of red tape and get projects done that maybe are beneficial for the population without having to go through a bunch of bureaucratic layers. Anyway, I digress. My point being is that the powers that be don't care what style of government it is. But to be specific, and I'm going to interview him on my next mastermind, is a good friend of mine named Patrick Wood. And Patrick is the leader in Technocracy. And that's what we have. We're moving out of the political class. There will be, I won't say there will be no political class in the future, but it'll be very minor compared to today. So most of things will be AI driven, and it'll be the technocratic group that was started pretty much by Elon Musk's grandfather in Canada. And it's been around since the 30s. During the Depression, the Technocratic Era started as far as ideology-wise. And it's scientists and engineers should be running things because they have a better grasp of, objective reality without getting politics involved. So we have this much resources and they're divided fairly among the population. Everybody gets, 4 bushels of wheat per week, whatever it is. But you get my point. It's all based on pure science, pure math. Those
ridiculous.
Dorothy engineers are going to take care of us all. And that's what we're moving toward, is a technocratic era. In fact, Zbigniew Brzezinski wrote the Technocratic Era. And I bring this up often on podcasts like John B. Wells. We're pushing us to communism. It might look like that until you understand what the Technocratic Era is all about and how technocracy works, because it's very much going with changing us or altering us humans into a morph between man and machine. That is part of the technocracy that's ahead of us.
Pretty interesting. I have no idea what the future is going to hold. What I do believe is AI is not a bubble. It's not a bubble. It's changing everything is the future. Unless we become Luddites and start breaking all the machines because we simply don't want to go there, which we aren't. Companies are scaling faster than ever. We're going to have so many spam calls in the future. It's going to be insane. You're never going to answer your phone. If you do, it'll just be your digital twin talking to somebody. It'll just be AI talking to AI, talking to AI. And the rest of us are going to figure out either create and build or not. We're either going to be part of the system that's leading or we're not. And I'm not sure. I really don't know how this is all going to work out. I don't think anybody does, but that's a very interesting perspective of the technocrats. I'm going to have to dig into that and learn more. Unfortunately, our time has already come to a close. David, I think we're going to have to do this again. I'm going to talk some more and get some more of your feedback and understanding of how you see things, because you're coming at a completely different angle. And I can already see some of these things in place, being so involved in AI and technology right now. So for those who are listening and thinking, he has some truth there, and they want to reach out to you, how should they do that?
Yeah, the best thing is to follow me on my main landing page at themorganreport.com. 3-step process. If you're interested in reports, you can hit the About Us page or the opportunity to subscribe to what's behind the paywall. I do a lot for free. Go to the blog. I did 30 podcasts on the crypto conspiracy ripoff. It's called Crypto Conspiracy. Took about a year and a half. I go into early on how Epstein was tied to Bitcoin, how Bill Gates was tied to Bitcoin. The guys that started the stable coin were criminal elements. So a lot of things out there that now people are waking up to. I had that done probably 3 years ago. So I'm not always ahead of the curve, but usually I'm early.
That's very interesting. David, thank you so much for being on the show. Folks, if you're interested, check out the Morgan Report. We'll have the information in the show notes. And we'll talk again next. If this episode shifted your thinking, then share it with someone bold. And remember, capital is a tool. Use it to build a world you are proud to live in.